Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about the new Disney Plus series from Marvel entitled What If? This first episode is called What If Captain Carter Were the First Avenger? For those that don't know, What If is essentially going to be like an anthology series in which we kind of like play out the events of a Marvel storyline with a significant change taking place. So in this case, this episode is essentially about what would have happened if Peggy Carter had taken the super soldier serum as opposed to, I was almost say Chris Evans, as opposed to Steve Rogers. And I gotta say, I was not a fan of this first episode. I found it to be pretty underwhelming and actually pretty uninspired, if I'm being honest. When you have an anthology series like this, right, you only got, in this specific one, you only got about 30 minutes to work with, right? If you're doing 30-minute episodes. What we have is essentially, when you have an anthology series, these storylines aren't going to play out from episode to episode. They're not even supposedly going to have any impact on the MCU as we know it. That could be wrong. I don't know, but I've heard rumors. I've heard both rumors that it will and that it won't. But let's just work under the assumption that this is not going to have an impact on the MCU as we know it. In that case, with each of these individual episodes need to essentially be one-shots that are incredibly compelling stories. And this was essentially the first Avenger with a different star. We already know that story. I'm not here to see the same story with a different character. I'm here to see an entirely new story based on a change that creates an entirely new story. So what I mean by that, they started to go in a direction that I would have liked. We see, as soon as Peggy takes the super serum, we see this Colonel Floyd immediately is on some sexist shit, right? And that makes sense for the time, right? I have no problem with that. I actually thought it was actually a nice touch to have Bradley Whitford voice this character again, who he voiced this character in a one-shot short before. And I think it's a nice little touch because Bradley Whitford plays a, albeit less than the other people on the show, something of a sexist chauvinist on The Handmaid's Tale. So not a too big of a leap to hear Bradley Whitford being sexist toward women. I thought that was a nice little touch. But we essentially, after she takes the super serum, we have him giving her a little bit of shit for being a woman. And I thought this is an interesting direction to go. I'd like to see a story where we have a female Captain America back then who is not going to be accepted as a woman during war times, being a super soldier, but instead and then play that out, like have a whole story where it's like, okay, this is what it's like to try to be Captain America or Captain Carter, whatever you want to call her, during this time as a woman. But essentially, it's just like a few kind of like side comments that are meant to be disparaging toward her due to her gender. But ultimately, it still plays out the first Avengers storyline. And what's irritating to me about that is that all this really felt like was kind of like, I almost want to call it fan service, but it's not fan service because fans aren't saying, let me see First Avenger with Peggy Carter instead of Steve Rogers. This is more like just like Easter eggs for the sake of Easter eggs for like fanboys, who I would consider myself as one of, fanboys that essentially jerk off to the things that they're catching, the references and the slight changes. The biggest instance of this being when the train scene, which I can say the train scene because if you've seen First Avenger, you know what I'm talking about because they didn't change very much here. The train scene where Bucky dies in the movie happens again in this, but he's saved by Peggy. And he even makes a comment like, you almost ripped my arm off. And like, to me, that was kind of cringe because that's just meant for us to go, oh, I get that. Like, come on, man. Like, that's not creative. That's not imaginative. That's not interesting. That's just meant for us to go, oh, I get that. I don't need that. I want a new story, something fresh, something interesting. I don't want to, like, this isn't a thing where I'm just like, oh, I see how they made that change there from the movie to this. Like, I already saw the fucking movie. I don't need to see the movie again. I love the movie, but like, I want a new story. Like I want to like it should have been different from the moment that she becomes Captain America. Because I like how they played out. Like they go, they have Jeffrey Wright narrating this at the beginning as the Watcher, which I think is cool. I like Jeffrey Wright has the perfect voice for this. You have Jeffrey Wright narrating it, and it pauses at a moment, at the crucial moment where things change between the movie and this show, which is when Stanley Tucci, who returns to his role of Dr. Erskine, he says, Peggy, would you feel safer from the booth? Instead of saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna go go chill out in the booth, she says, no, I'm gonna stay here. And they pause it, and they have Jeffrey Wright go, this is where shit changes. And like I thought that was kind of cool, right? So she ends up, I'm not gonna go, running the whole thing through. You saw what happened, but she ends up in the machine, getting the serum, coming out jacked, and becomes I can't even say Captain America. It's kind of like it's interesting because you can't call her Captain Britain because that's a character that already exists within the Marvel universe. But it has like her uniform has like the Union Jack UK flag on it, which again makes sense. But so that's why they call her Captain Carter. But she emerges, jacked, and she's now Captain Carter. And immediately we kind of start with the sexist shit, right? And I'm like, okay, I get that. So now I'm thinking I'm gonna get a story where it's like, okay, we're gonna see what it's like to have this woman try to gain footing where Steve Rogers probably would have gained it a lot easier. But it just proceeds like the first Avenger movie. And I'm watching like the train scene, and I'm seeing all these familiar things, but they're just slightly different. And I'm like, what is the point of making this? Like, I don't need first Avenger with slight differences that I'm just supposed to go, oh, I get that. I remember that part. Like, oh, that's different. I don't need my ego stroked to remind me that I have a memory of what happened before, and that I've watched this stuff enough to catch these differences that are and these references. Like, I don't need an Easter egg show. I want a show that tells me something, a different story based upon a change to the timeline, not the same story with little slight tweaks that are meant to make me jizz all over myself because I caught the reference. Like, that's not interesting to me. So I plan on covering this show week to week, but if it's just gonna be like this, like where it's like, okay, now I have the Black Panther movie, but instead of Black Panther, it's gonna be somebody else, and it still plays out like the Black Panther movie, but like I'm not here for that. I'm not here for this circle jerk of like, let's see how many Easter eggs we can pop into a show that's gonna make diehard fans go, oh, I get that. I'm not here for that. So if it's gonna be like that, I'm probably not even gonna watch this. I'll probably still watch it, but I'm not gonna cover it. If that's all it's gonna be, is like, hey, here, like it would just be videos of me going, here's the differences between the movie and this TV episode that's slightly different from it. No, don't. I'm pass on that. So, despite that, there are some things that I did like about this first episode. Like I mentioned earlier, I like Jeffrey Wright as the narrator, aka the Watcher. I think that was a good choice for that character. I like the direction that they started to go in with Peggy, having to face the challenges of trying to be Captain Carter. I start to say Captain America, then I start to say Captain Britain, and then I arrive at Captain Carter. But I like the challenges of a woman trying to fill that role. Of course, I feel like it should have leaned more into that direction than what it went, but I liked that idea, and I liked where I thought that they were going. I kind of like the animation style. It didn't blow me away. It looks like a moving comic, which is cool, but it does give them the freedom to do some of the things they can't do in the movies because of, physics. But, it had some cool action sequences. I really, really liked this shot of Peggy riding the back of Steve when he's in this Hydra Smasher uniform, which, again, the circle jerk, right? Like, okay, oh, I know that. That's a slightly different version of what Obadiah made in Iron Man 1, like the OG Iron Man outfit. Like, cool. I get it. Like, okay, cool. I see the reference. But like I said, this just feels like this is just meant to like shoot references at us, and we just jerk off like, oh, I get the reference. Like, okay, like what a waste of time. But I really like that shot of her riding riding the back of him. I thought that would have been a cool. That was a cool little montage, like them kind of like fighting together. That was pretty nice. Couple notes: Stanley Tucci back as Erskine. Haley Atwell back as Peggy. Almost everyone who was featured in this episode was the voice of the person who played them in the MCU, except Chris Evans, who was noticeably absent as Steve Rogers. I forget. I looked up who the guy was. The name escapes me at the moment, but it wasn't Chris Evans. So I could barely tell the difference, if I'm being honest. And then so they had Ross Marquand voice Red Skull in this, who also he did Red Skull in Infinity War, but it was Hugo Weaving who was Red Skull in First Avenger. And I don't know. I know Ross Marquand. Like I know him, right? I cannot tell the difference between his voice and Hugo Weaving's when he's doing this Red Skull voice. Like I thought it was Hugo Weaving in Avengers. I found out it wasn't. And then when he started talking here, I'm like, they brought Hugo Weaving back. Nope, they didn't bring Hugo Weaving back. It's still raw. Like he does a great Hugo Weaving impression. But the last thing, I already talked about the flag thing. I was going to talk about the uniform, but that was one of the other notes I had. I talked about the Bucky arm thing. There was a lot of other things that were kind of just like little twists and little like little callbacks to other things we know. Like the end of the episode is similar to when Loki comes back through the portal. I can't. Was that Thor? Was that like a Thor after credit scene, or I can't remember, or Avengers? I think it was Avengers because it involved the Tesseract. But yeah, same stuff with the Tesseract in this one. God, there's so many things that kind of just mirror what we already know, which is really not what I'm here for. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. Did you find this to have value for you? Like I didn't find any value out of it, other than like a couple of good moments. But it's my hope that this specific episode is kind of unique in its lack of originality, which is crazy for something like What If to come off unimaginative. But this does. Like I said, like what's the point of making a show where all you're doing is making tweaks to a story that already exists when you're creating an entirely separate timeline? You could make a whole new story. And that's what I thought they were going to do. Like, give me something interesting. Like, what is it like to have a female Captain America? Like, what is she going to deal with? Give me an entirely new adventure with Peggy Carter as Captain America. And they just said, we're not even going to fucking try to make a new thing. We're just going to make First Avenger and just make a couple of tweaks to it. Like, I do not want to see 9 episodes of that shit. Like, give me some original stories. And I hope that's what they do, because I do not need to see 9 movies again with slight tweaks to the storyline. But I've been kind of purposely keeping myself away from the fine details of what this show is going to be like, because I want to experience them, right? So, like, you know, all I really know as far as what they have planned in an episodic way, all I really know is they brought back a lot of the voice actors. And there's a couple things that I remember as like what the twist or the tweak is going to be. But by and large, I'm sure there are some of you out there who could say like, oh yeah, no, there's going to be episode 3 is going to be like this, and it's going to be totally different. It's not going to be like that. Cool. But I'm purposely staying away from that because I want to experience the episodes with very little foresight into what's going to happen. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. But whether or not I cover this consistently is going to rely on that. If it's going to be slight tweaks to already established films, I'm out. I'm not gonna waste my time reviewing that. So we'll see what happens next week. I was hoping we were going to get more episodes on day 1 as well. This doesn't feel like, again, with it being an anthology series, it kind of feels like something you don't necessarily need to wait week to week for. Like I don't because I don't really have anything to anticipate. You know, when you have something that's episodic in nature, when it ends, you can say, I want to see what happens next. There is no next. Like, it's a totally different story now. So I feel like you could have dropped maybe like 2 or 3 episodes on day 1 and then gave us the next ones week by week, and then you get like a 6-week run or something like that, and it's cool. But yeah, it was just 9 weeks, I guess, of seeing what they come up with. So let me know what you thought in the comments. Subscribe, get those notifications, join the people who have like the train of people who have joined me after my reviews of Dave. Check that out if you haven't already. Check out Betrayal of Attica, both my review and the movie if you haven't already. Check out my coverage of Loki. I got coverage of Falcon and Winter Soldier, all that good stuff. So I got a Black Widow review out here too. Check out all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next week for episode 2. Peace.